How's everybody doing today? I've got a really great stream set up for you guys that I think you're really going to enjoy. A lot of people in the community have asked me, Daniel, I have trouble coming up with really great video ideas. Like I know what my niche is. I know what I want to make videos about, but I think there's always a wrestling that we have with trying to figure out how to put the content together, craft a title that makes sense that people would want to click. So I reached out to a guy who really is probably the best out there. I'm a fan of his. I've got to become friends with him, and he's been on the channel before, and he always brings so much knowledge to this game. So we're going to be taking some questions along the way. So if you have some, think about what's going on here. And listen, and if some of this makes it might get a little complicated, but we're going to try to simplify it as much as possible so that you guys can really take the things that Matt brings to the table and apply it to your own channels and your own strategy. Okay, so look, without too much further ado here, let me introduce a man who is the founder and CEO of Little Monster Media Co. He's driven billions of additional views to some of the biggest YouTube channels on the platform that you probably know. And if you're someone who's out there and you've got a channel that maybe isn't growing, or you've got a troubled channel, if you've got a sick channel, if you've got a broken channel that needs a little healing, then let me tell you, my friends, you've come to the right place today.
If your broken channel needs some healing, who do you call? Matt Gielen!
Oh, no, you didn't.
He's over there. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Gielen!
Oh, my God.
I know.
Every time. That's got to be the new intro for all my videos.
The crowd goes wild, too, So, Matt, thank you so much for coming on today. I get this in my community a lot. A lot of people asking, like, Daniel, can you help me figure out? I mean, I know what I want to do. I'm a gaming channel. I'm a cooking channel. But everybody seems to struggle with what they should be actually making the videos about and how to put them together. Here on my channel, I try to really work with people to up their editing game so that the video content looks a little better. It's a little smoother. They can package it together, get the audio right, get the thumbnails and things working right. But the titling is something that I haven't spent a lot of time with people working through, and I think you're the perfect guy to help bring a little focus here today. First and foremost, can you tell us a little bit about Little Monster Media Co., your company?
Sure. So my agency, Little Monster, helps brands build audiences on YouTube. We predominantly work with media brands. For example, we've worked with movie clips, CBS, NBC, Netflix, a lot of Viacom brands, including MTV and Comedy Central and Nick Jr., et cetera. And essentially what we do is we look at data to make informed recommendations or suggestions to improve the viewership of a given YouTube channel. And what we're looking for is the things that the audience is most interested in watching, and probably more importantly, most interested in clicking on.
Yeah, I think that's a huge stumbling block. A lot of times I'll talk because I've worked with TubeBuddy, I've worked with Nico over at the Morning Fame, helping him come up with different ways to make those tools work a little better. They're very they have functions in them that are really keyword centric to help people find targets, do some SEO research and keyword research. And I think one of the things that I've come across is that I think people get so wrapped up in some of these tools and the scoring system that's just sort of helping them find opportunity, that's all they think about is I just gotta get a high score on TubeBuddy, or I just gotta get a high score on Morning Fame or vidIQ or TubeSpan or whatever tool they happen to be using, instead of taking the time to really understand the viewer that they're trying to optimize for. But you did something really interesting. You had a paper that you wrote that was the taxonomy of the YouTube algorithm and how or YouTube itself, and it's one of my favorite papers because it comes at YouTube in a very different way than I think most people are about, that understand, or the way they think when they're actually trying to formulate a content strategy. Can you just give us a real simple intro? Like where did the taxonomy paper come from? What is it designed to do? Why did you come up with it? And how is it? How did you apply it in the thing that you were doing at the time?
Yeah. So the taxonomy paper came from essentially wanting to understand content on YouTube better, right? And essentially, I think we probably released it in 2018, something like that. And it had been working on it for probably 2 or 3 years. And I had done a tremendous amount of work in researching the algorithm, right? And I would write these papers basically outlining what we're seeing in our own analytics or what we're seeing in like a Google white paper where, they would say, this is how we engineered or built the recommendation system. And so I would distill those and put them into terms that like a publisher of videos, a YouTube channel could really understand. And part of the growth for any YouTube channel is the content, right? Like it's you can't just be like, oh, we're going to optimize specifically for the algorithm, right? Because it doesn't work like that, right? The recommendation systems or algorithm essentially look at viewer behavior, and a big part of viewer behavior is like enjoying videos. And so as an agency, and prior when I ran audience development and programming for Frederator, right, we'd make a lot of original content. We make a lot of original content here at Little Monster. And in the same way that we have a system for quote unquote optimizing videos and publishing videos and understanding or looking at the data and understanding what that's telling us about what the audience wants, I knew we needed a system for developing content, right? Because we'd get the team working on a property, sitting around a big table back when you could sit around a big table. And we'd be like, let's pitch ideas for what we're going to make, right? Whether that was like at the beginning or, maybe the viewership was kind of like plateauing, or we just felt like there was more to do, or we wanted to do a spin-off channel or something. And we pitched decent ideas, but a lot of times it would be stuff that, would work really well on TV, or if you had $50,000 a minute to make content, right? Or had just been done to death on YouTube. Like if I got pitched another Listicle, again, this was probably like 4 or 5 years ago, I was going to lose my mind, right? And so I was like, all right, well, let's do what we do for understanding audiences and understanding the recommendation system for content. And, we put up, I think, 50, 60 different types of content. And, we would look at it and we'd say, okay, there is a common type of content on YouTube is the vlog, right? And we looked at that and we said, well, a vlog is definitely a type of video, but there's certain expectations that come when you say, oh, I vlog, right? Like generally speaking, you're going to expect, right, a direct to camera. You're going to expect probably like a lockdown camera or like a cell phone camera where the person is just talking to the viewer. And you're probably going to expect that the topics are generally going to be about that person's life, right? Then we looked at like unboxing videos, right? An unboxing video is extremely similar to a vlog, but if you say I vlog versus I do unboxing videos, people are going to understand they're two very separate things, even though an unboxing video, generally speaking, is someone, sitting down, talking to a camera, right? And unboxing this thing. We're like, well, those are like commentary videos, right? And so basically what we did was we took all these various like types of videos and tried to boil down to the underlying format of the video in such a way that we could form a taxonomy in the same way that like, when you're classifying dog breeds, right? You can say they're all dogs, right? And someone says, I make YouTube videos, I own a dog. Well, it's like, well, what type of YouTube videos? Right. And the same way is like, well, what type of dog? Because if you're the owner of a Chihuahua versus like a Mastiff, they're very different worlds, right?
Much different feeding expense ratios too.
Yeah, exactly. And so like similarly, the reason we did this was because we wanted to have a shorthand for explaining the type of video we wanted to make and pitching the type of video we wanted to make. But more importantly, what came out of this was a system of development of content where we could say, okay, we've got a channel that's a gaming channel, right? Let's say there's Sega came to us and was like, hey, we want to make YouTube content. What should we make? right? We didn't want to sit there and go, well, in gaming, people like to watch this, so do that. What we want to do is say, here's what's currently being done in gaming. Here's where the white space is, what's not being done. Let's try some of those things. But what we're going to do is we're going to understand what's really popular, right? We're going to boil those down to different elements, and we're going to make something fresh and new, but it's still going to be familiar to the audience because they've seen it in other types of content before. They've seen elements of it, right? Like a listicle or a reaction.
Well, you see, words like listicle throw people off. I'm thinking listicle. I think that's part of my medical physical every year. They grab me by the listicles and ask me to cough. So before we jump into that, so let me make sure I've got this clear. So when you came up with this taxonomy, you looked at all the different types of videos that you could possibly digest and said, all right, let me see if I can categorize these. There's only so many different possible combinations or types of videos out there. So but this wasn't a thing you had. There wasn't a resource you could look at and go, hey, does YouTube tell us like all the different types of videos that exist on the platform? Certainly we can look at niches, but it doesn't tell us the actual content strategy or how those videos are built, because like you said, some of things where you were like mentioning a listicle where people actually list, certain things in a video, or they do a reaction. We know what a reaction video is. So you actually built this thing so that you could put a comb through the different types of content on YouTube?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it, right? The basic idea was to be able to label and identify a type of video or what a creator or YouTube channel was doing and why it might be interesting to viewers, right? Because like if you think about TV, or movies less so, but TV, right? A NBC or a CBS is going to make programming choices based on what audiences are indicating they like to watch, right? And so like in a given night, right, maybe there's like a comedy sitcom, there's a medical drama, there's some sort of crime show. By and large, there's two types of TV, right? There's reality and there's narrative, right? When we look at YouTube, right, we would label those as entertainment or utility. However, the way shows are particularly structured on TV is similar to the way shows can be structured on YouTube, right? Where in a news show, right, you're going to have interview segments, you're going to have commentary segments, right? Maybe you have a challenge segment, right? If you look at like a morning show, right, they're going to have, little segments where they show you how to make some dish, or right, maybe the hosts have to do some sort of like challenge, or they react to like, a scientist doing something out on the street in front of a crowd or something, right? There are these like little segments that go into a show. In the same way on YouTube, essentially what we were looking for is like, how do we categorize the different types of content so we have a common language, so that when I say to you, for Sega, right, we want to do a interview show, but we don't want to do like a sit down interview show. Those are boring, right? Like we want to come up with whatever the next hot ones is, or the 73 questions is. So what can we do in the gaming category? Because we're Sega, we have access to pretty much anyone in the gaming space, right? We know we have that advantage. So therefore we want to come up with a show that enables us to take advantage of that access, right? And so an interview show is a easy kind of like base format to be able to leverage the fact that you have all this access. But no one wants to watch, an interview show on YouTube, right? It's not the place.
Well, yeah, unless you're like Joe Rogan, and you've built something up where he, the conversations he's having and who he's having them with are a deeper level. But I know exactly what you're saying. So wait, you said you made a great example, Hot Ones. For anyone out there who hasn't seen Hot Ones, I don't know how you could have missed it. It's a huge subsection of First We Feast on YouTube, where Sean interviews famous people from different walks of life. Some are actresses, some are musicians, different people. But he does it while he's feeding them progressively hotter and hotter buffalo wings with heavier sauces. and they're breaking down, like people are really like, these sauces are kicking their butts as they're trying to answer questions. So, and that show has been hugely successful. But something like that, when you were talking about categorizing content, when you look at something like Hot Ones and the success of Hot Ones, now I know this, like as a musician or a video editor, I can't watch like a movie or listen to a piece of music without always thinking about, how did they do that? Oh, what did he do there? What was the edit? So when you see something like Hot Ones, I know you're looking at that and dissecting what types of content is going on there, right? Or what categories that might fall into in your taxonomy. So someone like Hot Ones, what would you say that type of content is?
Yeah, Hot Ones was actually a big part of the impetus for doing this, because interview shows on YouTube generally fail, right? There's very, very few examples of like interview shows being really, really successful. And when I was looking at it, I was like, why would someone who is a fan of Wiz Khalifa, right, watch a Hot Ones with Bob Saget, right? Like the overlap there is like very, very tiny if we're doing like the Venn diagram. Right. There's not a lot of like Wiz Khalifa fans who are also Bob Saget fans or vice versa.
Right. They don't have both posters above their bed.
No. Right.
Well, I mean, I do, but.
Of course. But like looking at the viewership on a Hot Ones series, like across their videos, there will be spikes, right? Like, sometimes these things just break out, but like by and large, it's pretty consistent, right? You're talking like 1 million, 1.5 million views on every single interview. And typically when you look at interview shows, that's not what you see, right? What you typically see is like, they'll have a video breakout and they'll do 2 million views, but every other video is doing like 10,000 views. But on Hot Ones, like it was very, very consistent at a very, very high level. And so I started looking at it and I was like, why is this different than every other interview show on YouTube? And where it kind of came down was like, well, there's a reason for people to watch that has nothing to do with who's being interviewed, right? Because if you think about the value proposition, why someone would watch an interview, right? Like in the entertainment world, it's largely because they're going to be interested in that person, right? And so I started thinking about it. I was like, well, there's this wonderful hook of person eating hotter and hotter hot wings, right? Which, like, if you look at YouTube, right, people there are millions of views on just some rando from, the valley here eating something or watching a YouTube video. People are just interested to see what happens with other people. And when it's a celebrity, it's like, oh, well, let's see how this celebrity does it, kind of thing. And like the interviewer's fine, right? But like Larry King didn't blow up on YouTube, right? Like there's lots of like good interviewers. He's perfectly good. I like him. I think he's fine, right? And so like for me, and the style of the show is just a normal interview show, right? Like there's like maybe a tracking camera, but then it's like, the standard kind of like, this kind of setup with a master camera. Like there's nothing magical in the style, right? Like the backdrop is a black curtain.
Yeah, right. It's a table. It's some wings. Yeah. It's two people, a couple of camera angles, and a black curtain.
Exactly. Yeah, it's nothing fancy, right? And so, like for me, I was like, oh, okay, the format is the hook, and then you start looking at all these other YouTube videos, and it's like, well, why would someone watch the React channel? It's like it's the format, right? Like they don't have like that much reoccurring talent, right? So like personality ain't it. Right? Where like you can watch MKBHD just because you want to hang out with him and get his, take on things, right? He also has really beautiful videos, right? So you can watch for the style, right? But he gets equal viewership on an iPhone review versus a Tesla review versus like whatever, right? And so like for him, it's not the topic, which is kind of the fourth reason why someone would watch, right? You got personality, you've got personality or talent, right? You've got style, right? It's a beautiful video. Not a lot of people, get viewership from style. There are definitely some, but generally speaking, it's more additive than a reason people watch. You have topic, right? People are interested in the specific topic of the video, which is a terrible place to be, but we can talk more about that. Then you have the format, right? And then what the taxonomy does is it breaks down those formats. Why would someone choose to watch a video? They're interested in the format. Why would someone choose to watch, this TV show? They're interested in medical dramas. Right? Why would someone choose to watch a game show on TV? Because they're interested in the format. They like the challenge aspect of it, right? And so from that same viewership, like that's where the taxonomy, or from that same perspective, that's where the taxonomy came from, is like, that's a reason why someone would watch a YouTube video. It's a reason why something can feel very fresh and unique and new, but it's still very familiar to us. It's not something that's like brand new or like, what the fuck am I watching? You forgot to give the language precursor.
I know. We did have, that's the first F-bomb. You made it 21 minutes in before the F-bomb was dropped. So we'll see.
The, like, he's going to say some shit that no one understands precursor, which I appreciate. This is, I think, the third or fourth time we've done this, and I've gotten it each time, and I'm like, thank you, always. Right? You didn't give the language one. No. So that was the first warning. More to come. Because
we need to have like a buzzer. We need to have a buzzer in here. Well, hang on here for a second. So just so we're not confusing people. So you're actually, because I think a lot of people go to make a video and they're all thinking about how do I craft the title, but you're actually saying there's a deeper thought process that you should be considering, not just how you craft the title, but first really figuring out what it is you're trying to make, how you're going to craft it and approach that content. So the titling of it becomes infinitely easier. Like you were saying, hot ones, right? Right off the bat, you just said, okay, so there's one part interview. So they're doing interviews, but it's not a standard interview because they're also eating these progressively hotter wings. So I guess by your standard, that would be a challenge video, right? Because they're doing a challenge. Yep. And then there's probably another component in there because you're watching whoever the guest is react to the challenge and how they're trying to answer questions while they're breaking into sweats. So this is sort of multiple different formats coming together to do something different. So that the idea of how they were going to do interviews suddenly became a completely different thing than these other interviews that we grew up on television and on wherever else we might have seen, on the radio or wherever else.
100%. That's exactly it. I would also add that you could probably sprinkle in a little listicle element to it. Because of the progressively hotter and hotter hot wings, right? And I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, the listicle element is like the, backbone of so many YouTube videos that it kind of feels a little bit like, well, is everything a listicle? And it's like,
well, hang on, hold on. Let's stay right here for a second so that we can bring people up to speed because we're using words like listicle. So let me try this. This is actually the formats. After you sat down and said, all right, I'm going to see if I can categorize YouTube videos into very specific groups that I can pretty much look at anything on YouTube and go, it's going to fit into either one of these categories or maybe a hybrid of several different things, several different categories on here. Is that fair enough to say that most videos on YouTube, you could look and go, I can tell you exactly what the formats they're using and why this is successful?
Yep.
Okay, so let's start here. Let's go right up to the top and explain to people so they understand, because you got it down to 8. And I'm like, really? Every video on YouTube, you could probably slap it into one of these formats or a combination of the 8. So right off the bat, the first one we see in the upper left, let me go big screen here, is the listicle. So explain to people what this is. What is a listicle?
Yep. A listicle ranks or lists items based on a topic, right? And then there are going to be common elements that you see across a listicle, which is like, it's going to be multiple different items, right? Would be a common element across listicles, right? If you're doing a top 10, if you're doing a haul, right? If you're doing a compilation, you're talking about like multiple different items within a video, right? So in the same way that if we did, ways to gain more subscribers on YouTube, just because we don't say X number at the beginning of that doesn't mean that that's not a listicle, because we're still going to go through and list things, right? Got a list of the different ways you can do it, right? Say at the beginning of the video to subscribe, pop up a little subscribe thing throughout, right? Put a break in the middle where you pause the video for 1 second and say, hey, don't forget to subscribe and click like and ring the bell and, or the what else you got to say. Right? So in that way, that kind of becomes a listicle type of video. Now, I would also say that in that particular instance, you're talking about a listicle explainer hybrid, which is a very, very common hybrid. Right. Okay. Because we're explaining how to gain subscribers. We're educating people on a specific, we're explaining a specific topic, which is generating subscribers.
All right, you're deep into hybrid territory. I'm still on Listicle. So a Listicle really like an example. Let's stay here for 1 second. Let's say I had, because we're talking about how to help people come up with better video ideas. Let's say I'm a tech channel. And let's say that there's a new iPhone out, whatever, iPhone 9 million, whatever one they're on now. And I say, all right, I know I'm a tech channel. There's a new iPhone out. I want to make a video about this iPhone, but I want to do something that really gets people to click and watch. I want to connect with people and not just do iPhone review, iPhone 14 review. If I were to just look at this format saying, okay, how can Matt help me come up with a better idea? If I looked at something like Listicle, what would be like a simple spitball example of how to do a video about the new iPhone in Listicle format?
10 ways the iPhone is better than Android phones. 10 things you didn't know about the iPhone, 10 improvements on the iPhone Purple over iPhone 11.
So like the top 5 apps you need to get for the new iPhone, would that be considered like a Listicle?
Absolutely.
Can you go negative with that? Can you go 5 reasons you shouldn't buy the new iPhone?
100%.
Okay, gotcha.
Absolutely.
All right. So that's really what we're talking about here, is really not trying to think about just like how do I put iPhone 12 review tutorial, all this stuff in your title, but think about how you're actually going to make the content. Then the title almost starts writing itself if you know the format you want to use. Is that fair enough?
It can. It can definitely come out of that. Like I've always found it to be more useful to do title first, but it depends on title and thumbnail, right? Like if you can come up with an amazing title and thumbnail and then make a video that serves that fully, you're going to be in a great place, because you're talking about, with title and thumbnail, you're talking about the marketing for your video, right? And if you come up with brilliant marketing and you make a video that delivers on that marketing, you're going to be in a good place. But it depends on like where your channel is in its lifespan, right? If you're just starting out, trying to find audience, trying to find your footing, right? You're open to making all sorts of different types of videos, then yeah, absolutely. I think it might be very difficult for someone who hasn't spent a tremendous amount of time like making YouTube videos to think about it format first. But if you're kind of plateaued, you get a couple hundred views a video, right? You can't break out, then this is definitely something to research and spend time thinking about, especially as it pertains to your specific vertical or niche, right? So that you can go and say, well, reviewers do unboxings, right? They do the Listicle. What are they not doing that I can make something that's going to make my content stand out, that my audience is going to go, ooh, this is really interesting, that when someone clicks on my video, right, they're really satisfied by it because it's not just every other review, right? Because then you get into this like game of style, which is expensive as hell, right? Like it's real hard to do something innovative from a style standpoint that isn't going to eat up just a tremendous amount of time or require an artistic skill set that is going to be very, very difficult to achieve quickly, right? Like if you're a tech expert, chances are you haven't studied the art of cinematography, right? It's a complex art, right? And in many, many ways. And there's amazing resources on YouTube to become better at it, but like it's a honed skill that takes a lot of time, where to stand out stylistically, right? Like you're talking about expensive gear potentially, right? You're talking about a tremendous amount of time editing, right? You're talking about a lot of things that are difficult to achieve stylistically, right? So then it comes down to your personality, right? And
oh God, don't tell me that's all I have to leverage. Well, okay, on to the next one. Don't force me to leverage that sore spot.
a lot of people, right? You are who you are. Right. And there is a element of authenticity, being true to your true self, that is important in this here YouTube game. It's still a skill that can be crafted, but you're talking about like a handful of people in the world that can just ride on their personality. Now you can build a skill set of being a talent or a personality or actor, right? It takes time. It takes honing it, right? It takes being comfortable in that like skin that you're putting on like an actor, right? There's only so many Will Smiths, right? There's only so many Zendayas, right? There's only so many Tom Cruises where they just show up, they've honed that skill, they've worked it, right? And you believe them as XYZ character, right? There's a reason why Will Smith can go from like heavy drama to horror film to action film to comedy, because he's honed it over decades of acting.
Well, people have become invested in him over a long period of time, having seen him do many things that provided value, right? Yeah. I think that's one of the things we talk about a lot when we're talking to the community. Like some people, they forget that you have to trying to leverage just yourself. Like, why would people watch your channel? Well, I'm really entertaining. Yeah, but you're asking the audience to accept that and only come back for that thing. And sometimes the harshest reality is when you find out you're not nearly as entertaining as you thought you were. But you have to have something to get them invested in you through some sort of vehicle, some sort of value in the content that you create, so that people go, I was here for the value. I was here to learn about the new iPhone or the new game that just came out, or Fortnite, the new skins that they have. But I really like watching this person because I've watched enough of it. I just like who they are. But that's something that, like you said, develops over a long period of time. It's hard to come by, snap of your fingers.
Charisma is hard to learn, right? Then you have other people like, there's the guy has long black hair. He always kind of talks like this, right? He's very sarcastic. He's gamer. I don't know. Sure. Always wears a white T-shirt.
Yell it out in the chat, folks. We'll have prizes for anyone who could tell us who's Matt referencing right now. It's a new game. This is like a challenge. We're doing a challenge live stream at the moment.
It's very dark and sarcastic. He takes a different angle.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about too. You should know this.
So anyways, there's personality, right? And then what you have left in terms of like things you can play with is format. How is the video structured, right? Like, is there something in that iPhone review, which is where this started, right, that other people aren't doing that you can bring in, right? And like one of the things that I like to go to, because it's such a clear example, but it's one of the hardest ones, right? Is Miranda Sings, right? Miranda Sings brings in a narrative element into every video. So she can do an explainer, she can do a review, because she's going to bring in that character, Miranda Sings, who is like so outlandish and so out there, right? But is really funny and entertaining that, every video she does, no matter what the format is, she's bringing in that narrative element of the character, Miranda Sings, that it's going to make it something that's a little bit fresh and new to the viewer. It's not going to be every other iPhone review because it's Miranda Sings, right, doing the iPhone review.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, let's start to go through this because we're breaking these down. I'm trying to remember that. Is it Dr. something? The gamer. I'll think of it. So we start Listicle. So Listicle was approaching the content and saying, I know, we'll do it like a numbered, not necessarily a numbered thing, but where you're going through a specific list. That's why Listicle, right? A list of things, the top 5 reasons, top 10 reasons, or ways to where you're breaking down a video and you're approaching it from, I have an idea. I'll attack this topic by doing a list. So what would an explainer be based on a different type of format? What would that be?
Yeah, an explainer video explains or teaches on a topic or answers a specific question, right? It's where you're explaining how something works or why something is, essentially.
Hey, Dr. Disrespect? Was that right?
That sounds no. That guy's
dang it.
That guy's a little bit nuttier.
All right. Well,
I think his name's like, for some reason, Penguins is jumping into my head, but I don't think that's right. It's weird spelling on it.
I feel woefully inadequate not knowing who you're referencing, but we'll get back around to it. Someone will get it. All right. So, okay. So like this one, when you said explainers, which is like how-tos and educational, my channel where I do tutorials on teaching people how to do video editing, would I fall into a explainer category when I'm looking at content?
You 100% would.
Okay. So when I'm thinking about topics or ideas to make videos about, I really want to think about, okay, show people how to do something. Let's approach Filmora and say, I'll think about something, how to do a specific thing in Filmora might be a great place for me to start thinking about a video idea. So let me show people how to do it and then start trying to figure out exactly what it is I think people would want to learn in Filmora or Movavi or whatever video editing software they might be using potentially. Mm-hmm. He said, question mark?
Yes, that's exactly it. Okay. And that's, to the subject matter of this live stream, like that's how to come up with video ideas.
Okay.
The thing about the taxonomy though, is that one of the things that we're arguing for is that you don't want to do topic-based programming. Right?
Explain that.
So if there's 4 main reasons why someone watches a video, right? One of them is they're interested in the topic, right? Other reasons would be they like the personality, character, talent, right? They like the style of the video, right? Or they like the format, right? And they're not necessarily a conscious decision, right? But like if you like watching gaming videos on YouTube, you probably are streaming, right? Like you like the format of a live stream of the person doing commentary over that live stream. Like you generally, that's why you're there. And then you stay for that particular creator because they're either doing something with the format or the style or their personality is driving it, right? When it comes to what I think a lot of the people in our audiences, right, are making content, the vast majority of them, I think, right, or a lot of them are making explainer content, right? Because plenty of them are doing entertainment as well, right? But the characteristic of wanting to understand and to reach more people, I found, is generally more in the utility bucket, the explainer bucket. I am an expert in this thing, right? Or I am learning this thing, and I want to make videos about that to, further my career or my business or whatever it is, right? And I want to understand how to reach more people. And so I look for things like SEO, right? Or general YouTube knowledge, right? Because a lot of times, like people who are looking specifically to expand their reach on YouTube are looking at it as a small business, right? Now, some people just want to be influencers or whatever, but like, that's what I found my audience. And so I spend a lot of time thinking about people that want to do that, right? Even though the vast majority of my clients are like entertainment, right? And so, but it kind of evolves that way. And I don't know exactly why. There's more research to be done, but regardless, right? And so most of these people are doing explainer videos, right? And I'll give you a story from the Little Monster YouTube channel. So one of the reasons why we started the Little Monster channel is that we saw a lot of people making how to grow on YouTube type videos that were just explainer videos, right? It was the same information, right? It was recycled, and sometimes there'd be new stuff, new features, and it was fine, right? Like, great, most of this is good information. There's always the people that are going to be like, some bullshit gray hat fucking thing, right? Or straight black hat stuff that's like, why the fuck are you telling people to do this spiffing Brit?
Yeah. Oh, there we go. There we go. I knew that was coming. I knew you were getting dark there. Yeah, there's some bad, definitely some bad advice out there. That's why I have you here today, my friend.
Like you, Nick, Tim, Benji, those guys, like above board, wonderful stuff, good stuff, fine, right? And then I think there's Catherine and
Brian G. Johnson, Daryl Leaves. Those guys are usually pretty spot on.
So anyways, perfectly good. But we were like, okay, explainer's pretty much covered, right? Like, they'll do React stuff and that kind of thing. But like this straight up, like, here's how to title a fucking video, it's kind of covered.
Right. Again, I have a few of those on my channel.
Here's how to make a fucking thumbnail for the 80th time, right?
So, right. So you're saying just that straight regurgitating coming to the platform, it's not always just about, it's really thinking about how you're going to format your content to stand out from not just change your title, and you're not just make the, how to make a thumbnail and then try to figure out a different way to say it that might get someone to click, but really approach the format and the way you put your content together so that the content itself as a format can stand out against what's been already made on the platform?
Exactly. Right.
Okay.
So what we did at Little Monster was we said, well, we do these like super deep dives with clients all the time. Right. What if we film those? Those would be incredibly helpful to creators. It would, show an aspect of YouTube that, your average creator isn't, doing what we do at Little Monster, doesn't have access to, the tools that we have access to or that we've developed to really understand audience development and understand their audience. Like, what if we showed people how we work with clients because we have a ridiculous track record of building audiences? I think that would be really interesting to people. And we also saw that there weren't a lot of people doing like deep dives across a channel like, Cocomelon, right? Or Mr. Beast. Patty Galloway started doing some of those. I wouldn't necessarily describe them as deep dives. They're more like celebratory of huge creators. But he does it in a really interesting style, right? He does these like whiteboard videos, right? And like motion graphics videos, which you don't see in this space. And it's one of the reasons why his content has grown so much, right? He does extremely well because it's in a unique style, right? And the information is fine, right? So with Little Monster, we came out of the gate doing like deep dives where we look at a channel, we do like a screen share of like me going through the channel and like kind of writing out what the programming strategy is for that particular channel, what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, right? And that's a tremendous resource for someone interested in that particular channel. And it's very difficult to make the case to, your average explainer video channel talking about like how to build, a table from scratch, why they should watch a video breaking down Jeffree Star or Cocomelon, right? You would think like, why would the Cocomelon video be relevant to the person trying to build a table, right? And that's a very difficult value proposition to come around to, right? Or to understand. And there was a disconnect between audience and content we were making. However, if I were to go back and do it all again, I would have absolutely kept doing that. The breakdowns of channels and the deep dive sessions with creators, because when we started our YouTube channel, we had 0 subscribers, 20 subscribers from there. And the first videos we put out would do like 500 views, 1,500 views. And I'm coming to it from the mindset of like, I work with channels that if you get 1 million views on the video in the first 24 hours, that's a failure. Right. And so like,
well, wait, we gotta preface this by saying, listen, you've been at this for a while. You've got a proven track record, but you did a crazy thing as you said, I know, I'm going to get in the trenches with these creators and actually start a YouTube channel about my established company and build it up from the ground up. So you literally had to come all the way on the other side of the thing you've been doing. And now you're just one of us poor schlubs, right? Just trying to figure out how do I get them to click me? And now I'm the guy, right? I'm the talent now. And, and you got a couple of guys that do it, not just you, but it's a weird thing. What did you learn about being on this side of it? What lessons did you learn sitting there looking at how your videos were performing when you're used to seeing videos do millions of views and you go, I got 500. What is that? How do you know what's good, what's bad? And what should the expectations of new creators on the platforms really be from a guy who's worked with some of the biggest channels out there?
Yeah. First and foremost, if you are an expert in something, trust your own voice, because if you go from 0 to 500 subscribers, right, across your first like 3 videos, and your videos are regularly doing like 3-4x your subscriber count, understand that you've sat down with multiple people before and been like, you're fucking killing it. Keep going. Right? Instead of holding it up to some like artificial benchmark. That's
much harder to do when you're looking in the mirror though. Cause you're like, God damn it. Why don't I kind of like it 500? Really? That's what I got 500. Now there's people in the chat right now and in the replay are going, I'd love to get 500 views on a video. So there is that ability to have perspective is so important when you're on YouTube, right? Because you see these channels blowing up and doing things and you're trying to figure out what they're doing right. there is a growth process here. There is a, learning to get yourself rooted in YouTube, having audiences start understanding what the kind of content you make is, have them send traffic data back to YouTube from those interactions of watching your content, and then have YouTube start to understand the type of audiences that your current and future content might want to be recommended to. So that must have been brutal for you.
Yeah, well, it was perspective, right? To your point, like, I had a distorted sense of what should have been occurring, instead of being like, holy shit, we've hit something great, even though you're making this on like a shitty camera, right? With like natural lighting, sounds terrible, right? Like, you're getting this viewership with this audience base, right? I should have been jumped through the roof, but whatever, mistakes were made.
Beat yourself up. Yeah, it's never too late though, my friend. Never too late. It's never too late.
Just as a little caveat to that, I don't think subscriber count matters. Like, I think it's a benchmarking thing, right? Where, like, especially if you're a new channel and you're like, oh, okay, there's 500 people have said, through a subscriber thing, I would like to see more of this. Right? I'd like to support this creator, right? Out of like, 3-4 videos, like, that's great, right? For a new channel, regardless of like, your knowledge base or whatever. But anyways, so the whole point in all of that was essentially to say, like, I found a format that other people were not doing, right? On in this particular vertical, right? It was a combination explainer, reaction, commentary, listicle video, right? That delivered tremendous value to an audience, right? In terms of the information that was, being communicated, right? Even though the talent on screen was like a schlub, right? Wasn't that charismatic. Like, my first video was like, hey guys, how's it going? And today I'm gonna tell you all the reasons why Cocomelon gets billions of views, right? Instead of being like, something that people would be entertained by. In fact, a very, very well-known YouTuber, I'm not going to name drop, I sent him or her a early video that I did. And it was like a lot of like me talking to camera. One of the things you said was like, I don't care who the fuck you are, how fucking smart you are. No one wants to watch someone yell at them for 10 fucking minutes straight. I was like, that is such a great point.
That's every conversation at dinner with my parents. Or if it was only 10 minutes long. Hey, quickly, I just want to say thank you very much for the super chat from Fan Reactions super sticker. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. And I also want to say thank you to Tube Spanner for dropping the big 50 pound note here. That's Danielle. Tube Spanner, company we're working with right now. They're going to be doing their launch officially very soon. A lot of good stuff coming up. So listen, hey, before we get too far off track, I want to make sure that we talk about these other categories, because I think it's important people understand the different formats. Listicle, we're talking about, when you're saying, you're literally creating lists in the way you approach the format. Explainer is similar, the how-tos, tutorials. You call them utility channels. I often call them resource channels. People come to you to learn something or gain something from that particular. It's a lot of times knowledge-based. So what is a commentary? Give us an example of commentary.
Yeah, commentary would be like a vlog, an unboxing, like conspiracy theory type stuff. It's basically someone commenting on a topic or a subject, giving their opinion, giving their thoughts on it. Okay.
And an interview is not too different than what we're kind of doing right here, right now, talking with you, and you got someone else. So that's one example. If you're interviewing someone, I brought you here so that I could pick your brain a bit. But you got things in here like what does draw my life mean when I'm looking at interview right there? Draw my life.
Yeah. So interview is a subject is ask questions in some way. And essentially, like with the draw my life, essentially that's like answering the question, what happened in your life? What happened next? What happened next? What happened next? Right. And so it's a way to look at a interview that isn't just like, standard ask questions, right? Like there's Wired's autocomplete, right? That is an interview, but it doesn't feel like an interview.
Okay. And I guess when we went back to hot ones again, because a lot of times he's making them choke down these death wings, but then he's pulling up these like weird Instagram moments and explain what happened in this Instagram. So would that be an example of some of that, the Draw Your Life, where he's really digging out life experiences from some of the people he's speaking with?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right. That makes sense. Now, music video, I think most people know what a music video is, right? So either it's the official music video from a band that may have dropped, this is our official music video, a cover tune. So if you're out there and you do covers, that would be a music video, or a parody. Explain what a parody is to people who don't know what a music parody is.
Like Weird Al.
Okay.
Right. Now, one thing with a music video, this is an interesting one. I had to change the definition slightly. The original definition was like a song plays and is the primary purpose of the video. And someone looked at this in typical like presentation fashion. Whenever I give presentations, like say probably half the time there's some like question where it's like, gotcha, motherfucker. Right. And the question was, what's ASMR? And I was just like, well, it's obviously a music video. And they were like, well, it's not a song. I was just like, okay, audio. Audio is the primary.
Okay, so it's a little broader target where music is just where it's audio based. You're really thinking about what the microphone is capturing.
Yes, it is like, it gets a little fuzzy, but like it's a music video, right?
Okay.
The song is the primary value proposition.
Got it. I did a song. I've done 2 of them now. I did one on Brian's channel called Trigger the Algorithm, and then I did Brian G. Johnson Stole My Idea.
I saw that one.
It was my rap hit. So it's interesting that like watching these go like, oh, I've actually done this. I've actually said, hey, how can I incorporate a different format? And not even knowing at the time that's what I was doing. I was actually taking this thing that we talked about, how to grow your channel and stuff, and put it in a music video. But it still stayed true to the value proposition of growing your channel. We were talking about all these things that were important about learning how to grow a channel and how to make better content. We were just too stupid to know we were actually falling into a format. But you could have come along and said, Daniel, I can tell you exactly what format that is. You knucklehead, You made a music video. All right, well, while we're here, okay, so challenges.
I know you're a music guy. There's a sea shanty short on my channel. If you want to check that out.
I'm going there. I'm going there right after we're done here. A sea shanty. Nice. Right. Do you have like vertical stripes in the funny pirate pants, or no?
No. The singing on camera was about as far as I was willing to go to humiliate myself.
I rarely sing on camera. It's like I woke up this morning and I'm just sitting there thinking about, I gotta write Matt a song. It's 6 a.m. And that's when I'm like, hey, quick, grab the piano or guitar or something. All right, so challenges we get, pretty straightforward. Okay, so let me just follow through though. So if you're thinking about making a video and you do a challenge video, you've got physical. So explain what like a physical challenge would be.
Yeah, a physical challenge would be like a cinnamon challenge, where you got to eat a spoonful of cinnamon.
Okay. Right back to that kind of hot ones thing again, too, right? Like eating hotter and hotter wings.
Yep.
A mental challenge. What would a mental challenge be?
It'd be like a quiz show, any sort of like game kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay. And then how does that differentiate from competition?
Competition would be like a versus matchup. So you can do a mental challenge, like how well do you know XYZ thing, where it's just you individually being quizzed, right? And then a competition would be like, Mr. Beast is going to give away a house to whoever wins the like Christmas lights decoration challenge thing, right? You're competing against other people.
I love that. And it's, what's great about this? It was funny. I was in Clubhouse with Darrell Eves, and he was talking about someone had come to him and said, and it's funny how this stuff comes around, said like, I have a gaming channel and I just don't know how to gain traction. Like, what should I be making the videos about? How should I be doing it? And he did this very thing that we're talking about now. It wasn't about the title. It wasn't like, well, this is how you have to craft the title. He went right to format and said, make it interesting, make it something that you haven't seen someone else do. And his immediate gut on it was, do this. Play someone else, do a challenge against someone else playing, so you're playing someone else across the internet or whatever. Film each other, and each of you get on a treadmill. And whenever one of you guys dies, speed up the treadmill and raise it up a little bit. That is good. and then just keep playing and turn it into a challenge, so that you're trying to play the game
Yeah.
while you're running on a treadmill. And I heard him say that, and I was like, that's genius. That's genius, right? Because you can craft the title out of that. You can start seeing where it goes, but knowing what you're going to make first and thinking about the format of it, I love that he went there, because I don't think most gaming channels would be thinking that, like, wow, what if I did a challenge? How do I not get you think about I challenge someone to play the game, but how do you take it to the next level? Because then there's a bit of, I guess, would be the next thing, because there's a bit of, would you say there's a bit of reaction in Daryl's idea?
Absolutely, because they're going to be reacting to dying and the treadmill going up in speed and to the other person, for sure. And so you also got listicle in there, right? Every time that speed goes up, every time that person dies, you're in the next item of the listicle.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. Okay, so let's stay here on reaction for a second. So pranks, I think everybody's seen like a prank video where you do something and you're capturing the reaction of, you know, whoever you're pulling the prank on, as well as the people who pulled the prank, right? Because like when you look at what's his name, Robert, who does the glitter bombs, it's as much as, you know, watching him like see them get sprayed as much as seeing the people get sprayed with the glitter, you know, just to see it to its fruition. So you get to see both sides of that. So what the trying reaction would be a good example, again, like hot ones, like tasting the hot wing and then seeing how the people react to it.
Yeah, or just any video on the React channel, any like, we tried XYZ thing, right? Like, we tried Irish foods, you know.
Oh, I've seen someone that's like, you know, Irish people try American snacks. And they react to this food that they've never tasted before, because it's like, we don't have that in Ireland. And they just capture them eating this completely foreign food, and I get sucked into those every time. Like if you're a food channel or a food review channel, I wouldn't even think to do that. Like, I got to do this. I got to call some of my friends overseas and send them these, and then get them to film and capture all that, as opposed to just holding up and like, today I'm talking about the new Doritos flavor. Great, that's fantastic, right?
Yeah.
That would be the topic thing that you tell me I should probably not really lean on too hard, right? Just going, or would it be? Or would you tell me that there could be more to it?
Well, I mean, it depends. Like if the format is solid and people are interested in watching the format, well, then topic is going to work every time, because you've got the main hook of the format, right? Mm-hmm. The topic becomes more about like, can we do something that no one has done before, or something that's going to be interesting to our general audience within the format that we do. And yeah, I couldn't help but think about the allure of the other, which is like a film concept, right? Especially when it comes to the documentary space, right? Where people are really interested in like other cultures and people who are not them, right? And so that like allure of the other, that foreign, that thing that's you know, unknown or unexperienced by the audience has tremendous power. It's very voyeuristic and very enticing to people.
Well, here we get some questions from the chat. Smoke and Ivory asked like, what would be the ideal title format for music channels? I'm trying to decipher exactly what you mean by title format, but we're really talking about formats. What would you suggest if there was a music channel out there that maybe want to distinguish themselves from other music channels? Is there anything that you can think of that they might be able to do, looking at these different lists of different types of formats, to maybe help them separate from the pack so that they just don't look like every other music channel out there?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, it would be like, are you doing covers? Are you doing original music? Or are you doing an original type of video within the music vertical? There's a really wonderful channel that hasn't been programmed in years. No one else has done anything like it since then, which is mind blowing to me. If I had any musical talent, I would be, you know, doubling down on that in a major way. But it's called CDZA. The person who kind of ran programming for that channel, I think maybe was a founder of the channel, went on to become the SVP of programming for Condé Nast, developed 73 Questions, Wired's Autocomplete, a bunch of Bon Appetit shows, like just very talented when it comes to coming up with formats. And so what CDZA would do is they would do these like hybrid formats, right? They would go out on a street corner and people would have to put $1 on a jar to play a certain type of music. And then there was like a surprise one. So you get the listicle, you get the challenge, you get the reaction, you get the music video, right? All these elements that go into it. And so like, if I'm a musician, I'm like, how do I get more viewership on YouTube, right? Because I want to get gigs. I want to be able to sell my original music once I have an audience, right? My thinking is like, well, you can pretty much do anything. And it's going to be original and unique in the music space because pretty much all you get is covers, parodies in the original music video. Right? A lyric video has like, sometimes there's some style stuff in there, but like whatever. Right. So like if, I'm a musician, like it would be very, very easy to do something like we see on TikTok where it's like, voice coach reacts to Hannah Montana singing Old Country Road or something like that, right? And the voice coach is like, oh yes, this song was made for her voice, blah, 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 blah. Or if you're a guitarist, right, it's like, guitarist plays ODB's Shimmy Shimmy Ya, and 10 other Wu-Tang songs. So it's like Listicle, it's the allure of the other, right? You're talking about music video,
that's a great point because you just nailed. I love listening to music, but you know what I find myself listening to for videos is either the exact like famous musicians randomly showing up and busking in the subway, like U2 plays in the subway, or like even people I don't even really know, that someone who just crushes it right out in the middle of like an audience of people who didn't see it coming. So the reaction, that would be a reaction video, right? Like these crazy good musicians all of a sudden
like
just start crushing it in the subway.
Yeah.
Right. Or sometimes I'll see one I watched the other day, I couldn't stop watching it, was they said, every song sounds better when you sing it with as a heavy metal song. And they took all these songs that were these traditional, like really happy little songs. And then they did them all in heavy metal covers. So it was a cover, so it was covers of the music video, but they transformed it so that I don't know, what would you call that? Like someone taking it and doing them all in like a heavy metal style. Where would that fall into beyond just the scope of just a cover?
I would say you're probably adding a bit of a listicle there. You're probably also adding a bit of a challenge there, right? If you have to perform a nursery rhyme as a metal song, that's not like something that's been done for you. It's a challenge to your skill.
I almost feel like it was a reaction video for me because they're leveraging my reaction to seeing this done. It's like I know I'm on the fourth wall there. I'm on the other side, but I sit there and I am so captivated by this because I'm like, I'm dying. There's like a comedy sense to it. I'm watching and I'm going, I can't stop. I got to watch the entire video. I got to see what song they're going to do next.
Dude, I'm the same way. Like I love the like classically like first chair violinist for the London Symphony, plays $1 million violin in the subway, right? Like who will notice kind of stuff. And then there's a channel I started listening to the other day that got me like so amped. It's pop songs done in the medieval style. So it's like Slim Shady. But make it medieval. And like, dude, it is so good. Dan, I'm sorry. I have to jump. I have a 10 o'clock.
I'm sorry. Listen, hey, I
would love to stay for like hours and just hang out with you and talk YouTube content. I love this.
I appreciate your time, Matt. The last thing we had in there was narrative, which is pretty straightforward, web series, parodies, and sketch comedy stuff. Can you answer one more question quickly? Toby asks, can you provide a recommendation for motorcycle-focused channels? I mean, motovlogging, do-it-yourself, gear reviews, all kinds of saturating the niche. Yeah, you're absolutely right, the obvious thing. I will tell you this. I'll give you my 2 cents. Story is always important. Instead of always just saying, hey, I'm going to go, this is my motorcycle and making it all about you, I'm giving more of a story arc where people can see you go somewhere on a motorcycle where maybe other people aren't normally taking motorcycles, showing them more things, focus on the things that happen along the way that might stand out so that you're focusing instead of just, this is me on my motorcycle, that you can say things like, we got pulled over 4 times in a 10-mile stretch of highway in Arizona, and then talk about the experience of like, man, we couldn't go 2 miles before we got pulled over again. So any of those things are where you might have, we broke down in the worst place on earth possible, and then talk about how you broke down. Matt, what do you think? Any ideas?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great way to bring narrative in to the content. What I would say is like, let's work back from the goal, right? Like if you're just like a motorcycle enthusiast, then, and you just want to make entertaining content about motorcycles because you love talking about motorcycles, well, then like the world's your oyster, right? If you're a business that sells motorcycle parts, right, and you're trying to sell more parts, well, then let's look at that niche specifically and see what's being made from a format perspective and what we can do to make it more interesting, right? If you're just like, I always want to talk about, motorcycles and that sort of thing, like, well, then maybe you should react to celebrity motorcycles or motorcycle fails, or maybe you do a video breaking down why the person spun out, right? Or, had a crash, or, won the race, or whatever it is. Like, there's so many different like routes to go down. Talking about a motorcycle channel, I should probably pronounce it.
Yeah, well, you're doing root puns. That's it. It's road puns.
There's so many ways to go.
Yeah. But thinking format, right? Thinking like, how do you not just say, I'm going to talk about motorcycles? Well, what's the format? What do you think? How are you going to put this together? Are you going to, and then start thinking about what kind of titling and packaging you can do that would make it different than all the same things that you're already seeing on the platform. Because that really is what the game is here, right? Figure out a way to make your content in a different format than everyone else is doing, be unique, and then potentially you can stick out from the rest, get clicked, have a great topic, and people will actually watch your video.
Exactly. It doesn't matter what topic you're talking about if they're there, in part because they like the format and they like hanging out with you, right? You can talk about whatever you want. So. All right.
I'm with you. Hey, I just want to say really quickly, Crate with Dre, thank you very much for the super chat. It's much appreciated. We got to get Matt out of here. Thank you so much for being here, my friend. I really appreciate. In the description below, anybody watching on the replay, we do have links to Matt's channel, to the taxonomy, the complete taxonomy that you can read through and really start to understand the idea of formats and how to make content that is a little different than what other people are making. We also have links to, Matt also has a thumbnail service, Monster Thumbnails. I'm surprised he hasn't mentioned it yet. He usually can't stop talking about it, but definitely check out the links, check out Matt's channel, and buddy, thank you so much for coming on today.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me. It's great seeing you, man.
All right, let me leave you with this.
Channel needs some healing. Who do you call? Matt Gielen.
Matt Gielen, folks. Everyone have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, buddy. See ya.